I wanted to pull out a couple of items on the advisor revenue impacts. And the advisor revenue impacts, there's some excellent work that has been done by Core Data. This slide can look a little tricky, but I just wanted to talk through how it is to be interpreted. So if you bear with me for one moment. This was a survey, and as you'll see from the top there, it was a survey of a significant number of advisors, some 647 advisors, where they're asked approximately what proportion of your practice revenue is grandfathered or conflicted remuneration. And this slide covers a category. There's 5 categories of how you could complete this. There was 0% of my practice, 1 to 10%, 11 to 40%, 41 to 70%, and 71 to 100%. So there's one matrix happening there, which is what percentage of your practice revenue is conflicted. So there's a category that just said 0. That's the first one. Then as you head down, it broke it into different cohorts, which were, are you independently owned, affiliated with an institution, or institutionally branded, and then an overall average. When you look at this and you think, oh, there's not some, if you have nearly 35.1% of independently owned saying, okay, well, those have said 0%, the averages aren't so bad. But if you move to the next slide, you'll see if you remove that first cohort, which is those who just said there is no issue. And if you think about those advisors who might have no issue, some might be more recent entrants to the market. They might not have the older clients. They might have a longer tail might not have the longer tail of clients and larger businesses. So we've removed one section of this. And then the question is, approximately what proportion of your practice revenue is grandfathered or conflicted remuneration? And when you look at this and you're saying, well, 10% or less of my practice revenue is conflicted, and 63.2% of independently owned AFSL said it could be up to 10% is conflicted remuneration. When you think about that, that is a guarantee that on January 2021, that 10% of that revenue will disappear. Any business that has a 10% fall of revenue, it will be felt. If you then actually think about the next cohort, which is, oh, well, I'm independently owned, but somewhere around 11 to 40% of my revenue is conflicted. 24% of independently owned IFAs said that is going to be a problem to me. And finally, you'll see there that some advisors or a cohort where they said nearly 41 to 70% of my revenue is actually conflicted. You can see it's a smaller proportion, but it's a bigger impact to those groups. So what this is telling us when you look at the various ways to slice and dice this is that averages make it seem not a big issue. When you delve into individual businesses and what we've seen, there are some significant issues. It's almost polarizing, where some say it's not even an issue, others say this is something that I'm having to deal with. To support this argument, and I'll just skip this slide quickly, but to support this argument, you can see this playing out in practice valuations, and this is provided through Fort Asset Solutions with Steve Prendiville. And the sale of practices and the values of recurring revenue are already being felt. And we're seeing there that a practice that is heavily laden with grandfathered revenue is selling at close to 1 times its recurring revenue. A financial planning practice with a 35% of the clients over 70 plus, somewhere less at somewhere more as a multiple at 2.5 times. And then clients that are broken down, which is a financial planning practice that you consider a general business, is going for around about a 2.5 to 3 times. And that's assuming, that top one, that's assuming that the conflicted revenue or the conflicted remuneration is well in hand and probably falls into the lower percentages of impact. So business values are being driven down depending on how well this is being dealt with. What is important to note, though, is that we still have time on our hands to improve the revenue composition of practices and find a solution forward.